Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled Karen starts working at my store. When I park outside the store, she comes out claiming the car is stolen because I am black and the car looks expensive. She calls the cops on me and gets my car towed eventually. In the end, she assaults me with a knife. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. The first one starts like this. A couple of things about me before I just jump into the conflict and sweet revenge. So I am a black man that was lucky enough to make a smart investment a few years back. I am now the CEO of a bakery and a couple other small businesses in the same general area. On the day of this story, I had a meeting at a place on the same street I own a couple of places in to see if I wanted to invest in them or not. That should be about it for the backstory, so now into the meat of the story. I park my car on the street in front of the bakery that I own. The one downside to the area is that parking is not the best, so I just found the spot where I could and was gonna walk down to the meeting. Before I could do anything, a woman came running out of the bakery, telling me that she was gonna call the police on me and that I could not park there. She had a store shirt on, so I knew she worked there and also knew this was a legal spot. I got into an argument with her and told her that the spot is legal and her telling me that I couldn't park in front of her shop. According to her, it would give people the wrong idea about the kind of clients that shop at the bakery. She also made a comment about how she didn't want her bakery looking like a crack den cover. Finally, she called the police on me, saying that she was gonna get me arrested for theft because there was no way a black man could have a nice car like I was driving one. I waited for the police and showed them the ownership papers and had them agree the car was mine and the spot was legal. I was running late and decided to go to my meeting and figure out this employee situation at the bakery later. The meeting went fine, but when I got back, I found that my car was just gone. So I walked into the bakery because it was obvious that this woman was the one that had something to do with it. She had a smug smile on her face and told me that I should make sure next time that I used my handbrake. I was furious and started demanding that she tells me what she had done with my car. I was really losing my patience with this woman, and I already knew she did not know who I was. I could have told her then and there, but I wanted to see how it played out. How this woman as a worker in my store would treat customers that were not white like her. Woman, fine, I will tell you because nobody would believe you anyway. I took that stolen car of yours and pushed it forward into the bus stop area. Then I made a call and told them about it, so they came and towed it away. Hopefully they will contact the real owners about it. Me, did you not hear a word the police told you earlier? I own that car and I have a police incident report that has proof of where the car was parked. Well, you are not gonna get away with this, but right now I have a much bigger issue to deal with. Woman, oh, and what is that? Me, how about you call your supervisor and let me speak to him? I think when you call him up, you will realize what a mistake you just made. Woman, I'm the owner of this store. There's nobody above me for you to call. And if you don't leave right now, I'm gonna call the cops again and have you arrested for trespassing. Me, that's it. You are fired. Get out of my bakery and I'll make sure to see you in court about moving my car and having it towed illegally. Woman, you cannot fire me. You're a nobody. Everybody knows that black people don't have the kind of money to own a business. You would not even be welcome to work in this kind of neighborhood. Me? Well, actually I am OP, and if that name rings a bell, it's because I'm the CEO here. If you call the cops, I'll make sure you are the one leaving in handcuffs with a trespassing charge. I knew this woman was racist, but I did not think that she was crazy enough to actually pull what she did next. As you can imagine, a bakery has some pretty big knives, and she happened to have one close to her. She then picked it up and jumped over the counter trying to attack me with it. This bakery has glass windows and is on a busy street, so I can assume somebody saw this and called the police about the altercation and screaming going on in the normally quiet bakery. She got some cuts on me, but I managed to overpower her and push her against a display case. I did not mean for anything bad to happen, but she must have hit hard and got knocked out cold. The police came a few minutes later to find me with some cuts, a bloody knife, and the woman passed out. Of course, they were quick to think that I was the culprit, but before they could arrest me, I told them that I was the CEO of the store and to check the CCTV footage. I am thankful they agreed to that, and they saw the entire thing of her jumping me with the knife and attacking me. With modern technology, it was also easy to ID me as owning the bakery. The woman was waking up at some point while I was talking to the cops because I could hear her calling me racist terminology and the cops trying to shut her up. I told her again that she was fired and I never wanted to see her anywhere near my store again. The police arrested her for the assault and also for spitting at one of the officers as she was getting arrested. When I got home, I made sure to fill out all the paperwork to officially terminate her contract and hired somebody else for that shift. It turns out that she was hired by an old manager and worked her way up to manager without ever running into me despite stopping in fairly regularly. I did in fact take her to court for my car and she denied any of it happening. The CCTV cameras I installed saw the outside of the store too and clear as day as her walking out and moving the car. She was forced to pay for the towing fee and the fee I had to pay to get my car back. It was not about the money at that point, but just teaching her a lesson that messing with me was a horrible idea. I think in the future I'm gonna make sure when people are promoted to certain levels like manager that I meet them first. It would be a weird thing to happen twice, but I'm not a person that wants to take a risk like this. And the next one is titled, "He wanted to impound my car." Alright, so to make a very long story short, my wife and I run a tow company and a race shop. They are located in two different positions, though we do have a storage lot at the race shop for the tow company. I haven't been into the office in about a month and a half. During this time we needed to hire a new dispatcher and my wife went ahead and handled this, choosing a rather good candidate if I must say. Now with that out of the way, I can get to today's events. I showed up at the tow yard in my '96 Nissan Silvia and parked it in one of the 3 wrecker-only parking spaces in front of the building. A wrecker is the tow truck that is the size of a normal pickup truck and tows a car behind it, by the way. Having one of the 3 total wreckers currently on duty at the race shop and the keys in my pocket, there's no need for all the 3 spots and well, I own the place too. As I walked in the front door, I went to say hello and introduce myself, and before I could get past hello, our new dispatcher immediately turned and told me that if I did not move my car, it would be impounded and it would be roughly $250 to get it back. I think to myself, okay, I like your fire, let's see where this goes. And tell her that I'll not be moving my car and it will be just fine where it is, and turn to walk into the restroom. I did stay in the restroom for about 15 minutes until I heard one of our trucks come rolling in the front gate. I slipped out of the bathroom and used the side exit from the building to make my way around to my parking space, meeting up with my driver. Laughingly, I told the driver to go ahead and impound it, chuckled a bit as he looked confused, and I just told him to play along. So he hooks it up and pulls it into our gated lot around back in under 5 minutes, as I've now slipped back through the side door and walked back into the office. As I see my car go around the corner, I say to our new dispatcher, "Hey, where is Brian going with my car?" And without a stutter she responds, "Sir, I warned you, if you didn't move it, it would be impounded." Pausing for a moment, I waited for it, and after maybe 6 or 7 seconds, she said, "Wait, how do you know who Brian is?" I cracked a bit of a smile, slung my hand out for a handshake and said, "Hey, my name is OP, and I'm the owner here." The poor girl's face turned white as a ghost, and she immediately started reaching for the radio. Not seeing the 5 guys peeking around corners, snickering to themselves, as they have all caught on by now. I tell her not to worry about radioing Brian, as I will handle him. I ask her to sit down, looking very frazzled. She grabs a seat in my office and I sit down across from her, turn on my work PC while whistling to myself. After everything boots up, I pull up the ticket on my car's impound and void it out, and I inform our new dispatcher of such with a whimpery, "Yes sir." She is staring at her feet. Immediately behind her, all of the guys are hanging in the doorway, all but holding their mouth shut. I look to our new dispatcher and stand up, and I simply say, "I really like the way you handled that. No one should be parking there unless they are one of the on-duty wrecker guys. And yeah, sometimes this does require them to put their cars here in a pinch though. Try not to cause any more friendly fire, yeah?" And before she can answer, she is spun in her chair and seen all the guys watching. They erupt into laughter, and I asked everyone in the room what they want for lunch. The new girls is on me. Surely she will never live it down, but she is a part of the team now. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I hope that the young girl does not have any trauma from this, but I think it all went well in the end, and I kind of like how OP handled the situation. Maybe some other bosses would have freaked out because their authority or something would have been questioned, but he took it lightly, turned it into kind of a joke, and taught her a lesson that she needed to learn. I would say that's a pretty good boss. However, if you have a different opinion, please let me know what you think about this story in the comments. And while you're at it, I would very much appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help me tremendously. Either way, let's continue with the next one. The next one is titled Banned from Gas Station. Okay, so my mom works at a petrol station in a small town. Recently she got a promotion to the position of shift manager. Now, while most of the customers are locals who tend to be friendly, the store gets some right twats in. Anyway, this guy Kevin comes in driving a large van and pays £10 for petrol. Now, due to the rise in fuel costs and the size of his vehicle, the fuel did not immediately register on his fuel gauge due to not flowing through his engine. At least I believe that's what happened. I'm not car savvy. So after paying and driving a few meters off a little, Kevin storms back in angrily and goes up to my mother behind the counter, bypassing several customers in the queue. "Kevin, your pump didn't work. I didn't get any fuel." My mother asks him which pump he used so she can check again how much he paid. Okay, so you only paid £10. Given the size of your vehicle, it's likely that it hasn't gone through your engine completely to raise the fuel gauge. Kevin, no, I've had this van for several years and £10 was always enough to raise it. Your pump must be broken. Unfortunately, I've had 2 customers since you used that pump and it's worked great. This goes back and forth for a few minutes with Kevin getting more and more aggressive as he simply fails to grasp the fact that he did not put enough fuel in his van to immediately register without letting it flow through the engine. Kevin, that's it, get me your manager. My mom gives him an "Are you serious?" look as she is currently wearing a badge that says manager in bold letters. When it doesn't seem that Kevin takes notice, she finally says, "Mom, I could get you my other manager if you want." She is referring to another member of staff with similar duties to her, as the store always trains several managers at once due to the high turnaround. Kevin, good. My mom then disappeared for a few minutes and came back with her coworker. Kevin had disappeared. Perhaps he had grown bored, or perhaps the several angry regulars he had line cut had a word with him, but he drove off, proving that he did in fact have fuel. Now, this had not actually been the store's first run-in with Kevin, and he had been aggressive that time too. The customers asked if my mom was alright and took statements so my mom and her coworker could take the evidence to HR. So, that's the end, you're asking? Well, nope, it's not. About 30 minutes later, Kevin's wife comes into the store and goes to my mom's coworker saying, "I want to make a complaint about your worker." She was rude to my husband and refused to help him get home and refused to get him the manager. So she was complaining that the manager did not get the manager and help her husband drive home after her husband drove home. Due to what happened, Kevin and his wife were banned from the petrol station. The best part is, it's the only petrol station for about 20 miles in any direction, as we live in the middle of rural England. The next one is titled, Yes, I Work Here Indeed. So I used to work part-time at a bowling alley that is very small. I still technically work there, but only work seasonal hours during our business time. I have worked there a total of 6 years and I'm the closest thing that we have to a manager other than my boss, who is of course our boss. So this story happened when I was 20, so 4 years of working here. He never assigns roles like manager because he doesn't want a hierarchy, and honestly the system works great due to us only having 3 employees, rarely 4, other than him. One night I came up to hang out and collect my paycheck and we had 2 people working. One of them was a lady who had been there for a while and the other was a new guy. One of the machines broke down and my boss asked if I was willing to clock in and fix the problem so he didn't have to drive up there. Well, during me fixing the lane 2, someone on lane 1 threw a bowling ball completely wrong and it went down the alley that goes behind the machines where I was. It came nowhere close to me and mistakes happened, so I was not mad at all. I of course grabbed the bowling ball, walked up to the alley and attempted to hand it back to her kid. She intervened and yelled at me for being back there, saying, "The sign says prohibited, employees only." She also said that I should have not grabbed their ball and instead they need to wait for the employees to help her. I get it, what she is saying is correct, but throughout the whole thing she would not accept the ball, was very rude and would not listen to me that I am in fact an employee. I tried saying multiple times, I do work here, and twice she said, don't talk back, don't interrupt me. I walked back down the alley, put the ball back where it was, walked all the way across in the back, came up the other side of the lanes, then went into the office and grabbed a brand new work shirt out of the packaging, walked down right in front of her on her side, lane number 1, grabbed the ball and handed her the bowling ball. Then went back to the back and continued the repair. Once done, I went up to the front and hung out for a little bit, talking to the new guy who I would eventually become great friends with. He told me that when I put the work shirt on and went back to the back after handing her the ball, she came up and asked if I was truly an employee. And the next one is titled Hot Tub Issues. So background, I live in a state where it is legal to be naked on your property as long as you are not engaging in lewd activity. My husband and I recently got our first home. It is a decent sized property, 0.5 acres and has 6 feet fences. We have a porch on the back that I decorated with lights and we put in a hot tub. I put a projector screen across from it blocking the view. We use the tub nude only late at night, all other times we have our suits. The neighbors to our left have huge plants to block the property line. This was absolute perfection. So I went ahead and put similar plants on my back property line to block the view. Anyways, the neighbors behind us are kind of old and conservative. The woman came to my house today and basically screamed at me for being naked in my yard. She threatened to call the cops next time I did it, to which I informed her on the Florida Statute 800.03. I explained to her all the precautions we took, and honestly, I'm surprised anyone can see anything on our property as it is in the middle of the acre and there is a ton of plants and trees. She then threatened to report me to the HOA and the police anyways if I continue. She already confronted me about smoking MJ, but I have my medical card and ever since then, she has been on my ass about everything. Am I the a-hole for refusing to stop using my hot tub on my porch in the nude? Edit, we have tinted screens on the porch, but maybe the projector lights it up. Either way, it's still hard to see that far. And I also ordered dividers from Amazon anyways. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would love to hear from you. Do you think that OP is the a-hole for being nude on his property? Or do you think that he should be allowed to do whatever he wants on his private property? Let us know in the comments. And a user in the comments said, not the a-hole, it is your property. I would be raising questions as to how and why she is peeping on you and your husband. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, you are following the law on your property. It's not like you streaked over to hop in her hot tub. The neighbor sounds like a piece of work, to be honest. And the last one is one of these much beloved grandpa stories, and it is titled Bully My Grandpa? Well, enjoy being stuck in a poop pit. For backstory, this story is not mine, it is my grandpa's. Since he died before I was born, this has just been one of those family stories that I have heard since I was a little girl. My family has a lot of those, which I may tell if I find the willpower to do so. However, it may not be 100% what happened, but the main points where a bully got covered in poop are. My grandpa grew up in rural Iowa. I'm not gonna say where exactly, but Iowa is basically all cornfields anyway, so you probably got a mental image in your head already. He was always a stand-up guy, and despite this happening over 70 years ago at this point, you can still hear people speak very highly of the Boy Scout of a man that my grandpa was. I sincerely wish I knew him. At this point, my grandpa was in his junior year of high school, and despite being well loved in his community, he had his bully. Everyone has that one bully. His bully, though, just seemed to be a dick to everyone. Teachers, parents, kids, hell, there was even a small town cop fresh to the force who got bullied at one point. Which would probably go under entitled people if I make another post about when I ended up meeting this poophead. No one seemed to stand up to this stupid little high schooler that thought he knew everything. It got to the point where he would go out of his way to brag about it to people. This didn't set right with my grandpa, but he did not really know how to stand up to him without making things worse when it came to how he was being bullied. But one day, mistakes were made. My grandpa was getting a pop at a gas station with his friends, and this particular gas station had a restaurant attached, since it was a good spot for people to pass through on road trips or for a truck stop. And in the restaurant was the bully, laughing loudly with his little weaselly friends. My grandpa listened, just sipping his drink, and heard that they were going to pull a prank on an elderly woman that owned a farmhouse nearby. This woman's house was not in town since her family had built that house long ago and worked the land around it. She was widowed, her children had moved away, and she hired people to help her maintain the place. Despite her age, I've been told that she was still a spitfire and insisted on doing a lot of the farming herself. The main issue with her health was heavy lifting. Anyway, back to the supposed prank. This woman didn't have indoor plumbing, which meant that she got water from a spigot near her house and that she had an outhouse instead of a normal bathroom that we had today. For those of you that are not entirely aware of how Iowa farm outhouses work, it is basically a big pit in the ground that someone digs. And then they stick a wooden shack on top of it. The shack then has a seat with a hole in it for a person to relieve themselves in. The bullies were going to wait until the dead of night so that they could tip the outhouse over. My grandpa was furious when he heard this. He had been hired before by her for summer work and knew that she was strict but a kind woman that didn't deserve to be treated like that. Because when your only outhouse is tipped over and you gotta go, there is no way you're gonna be able to lift it, and there is no way to safely crouch next to the hole without falling in. So my grandpa did the right thing and immediately went with his friends to tell the old lady what was being planned. They expected her to be furious when they told her the story, but instead she sipped her coffee and gave them a chilling smile. Let them, but we will have a surprise for them. And she let them in on a plan to make sure that things wouldn't go as far as the bullies had planned. That night, my grandpa and his friends, telling their parents that they were at one another's house to hang out, all gathered at the old woman's house, munching on some cookies and pumpkin bread. My grandpa got the recipe of her, and it is an amazing recipe that my family uses to this day, and they waited. At around 11 o'clock, they heard disgusted screams from the direction of the outhouse. You see, the way that the yard was set up was so that there was only one way to get into the yard and still have enough room to take a running start to tip the outhouse over. My grandpa and his friends did not tip the outhouse over, but they did move it over about 5 feet. And also lightly covered the now exposed hole in excess corn stalks from the harvest. The screams were from my grandpa's bullies being waist deep in human excrement. The bullies' friends were frozen in place by the gate they came in, and the old woman immediately turned on the lights and started yelling that if they didn't get off her property that minute, that she was going to call the police. My grandpa and his friends waited inside and heard the whole thing, laughing when they heard the pitiful cries from the poop pit and the running of feet from the co-conspirators. Wouldn't you know it, he couldn't get out himself, and since he wasn't getting off her property, she called the police. My grandpa and his friends watched from a window as the poop fiend was dragged out of his rancid prison and made to go to the police station to explain just what he was doing. He was not an adult, so he wasn't charged, but from what I was told, word got around school and his last 2 years of high school were absolute crap. No one knew it was Grandpa, and the old lady never told a soul. Thank you, old lady. May you rest in peace, you wonderful woman. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then please feel free to check out my Patreon over at patreon.com/ripeyoutube, or join my YouTube membership program by clicking the join button to get access to even more exclusive videos. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you again tomorrow.